moved to Minot. Everything seems fine. He would have been, we moved to Minot in 2004, so that was around the time he turned 7. And just before he moved to Minot, we started noticing some loose stool in the litter box. And I noticed it was him. So we took him to the vet. The vet ran a few tests and was like, I'm not sure. I don't know. And then while we're in the midst of trying to figure this out with that vet, we moved to Minot. So we moved to Minot, and we're noticing the loose stool more and more. And sometimes it's with mucus, sometimes it's with blood. So we take him to a vet there. They pull up the test that we ran at the last vet clinic. They run a few more tests, and they're pretty baffled. They are completely unsure why this is happening, and it's becoming more and more frequently. So at this point, we're using what's called the Breeze system. Now, mind you, our cats do not have claws, so they're walking on their paws. And the Breeze system was like these hard, like clay pellets. And then you would scoop and shake the pellets, and then to scoop the poop out. And then when the cats would urinate, it would like go down this graded system, and there was almost like this puppy pad underneath that would collect the urine. And you just slide this tray out, dump the puppy pad, scoop the poop out. So how we knew it was Jack was because I caught him a few times defecating outside the litter box. And that was another problem. So we thought, well, maybe it's because these pellets are hurting his feet. So that's why he's not using this litter box. So we got rid of that litter box and went to clay scoopable litter. And we're still noticing sometimes the loose stools, the mucus, the blood, but he now was going in the litter box. So one problem was solved. The vets were unsure. Now I've got 2 vets that are like, we can't explain why this is happening. We do not know why this is happening. The only thing we can think of is doing an MRI. And to do an MRI, we'd have to put him under, and it would have been at least $1,000 to do this MRI. And they're like, he's eating, he's drinking fine, all his other labs are fine. Like, we ran other tests to make sure it wasn't his thyroid. We ran kidney tests. Like, we ran a gamut of tests on this cat between the 2 vets. Oh, and in between, before all this started, right before my son was born, while I was pregnant with Jack, he got urinary crystals. So he was in the vet hospital in Fargo for like 3 days. And that was not cheap at that. So he had been put on a prescription food also at this time. So he had the urine crystals. Then right after my son was born, he got his tail stuck in a Lazy Susan and had a cyst that burst. And after that, he hated his tail touched. And then he got urine crystals again, but we caught the second time quicker than we caught the first time. So he didn't have to stay in the hospital. They were just able to flush him out, and he was able to come home that day. So he was on a strict prescription diet. Then so that was actually 2 vets in Fargo that he had seen, because our normal vet and that vet, and the loose stools happened. So then we started thinking, when we were at the 3rd vet, the one in Minot, maybe it's the food. So we switched the cats to, Teffy had been eating gluten-free diet, because we found out Teffy was allergic to gluten also at this time frame. So with the help of our vet, we found a low, I can't remember what it was, that's sometimes in cat food that can cause urine crystals. So we put him on a wet food once a day. And then for the dry food, it was like this low whatever, and it was a gluten-free food, so both Jack and Teffy could eat it again. So I wasn't having to feed 2 different dry foods. Because also his urinary cat food the prescription one only came in dry food, which never made sense to me. So the vet thought maybe switching his food would help him. And honestly, it never did. It was just a problem. once we switched to the softer litter, he started defecating in the box again. It was still looser stools, sometimes blood, sometimes not blood, sometimes mucus, sometimes not mucus. And the vet in Minot was like, that's just him. Like, we've tried different food. We tried a couple different foods with the vet's help, and nothing changed. And the vet's like, he's eating fine. All of his other, like, he's fine all around except for this one thing. The only thing we can think of it is it's possibly IBSD. That's the only thing we can think it could possibly be, or like some sort of colitis. Without the MRI, and they didn't even recommend doing the MRI. Like, they offered it, but they didn't recommend it. So then we moved down here. He saw the vet that we're seeing now. They looked at all his tests, and two different vets here that are at the clinic that we go to. The clinic that we go to has one main vet, and he also takes students in and teach like how they do training, kind of like humans. So we have one main vet, and then we have some students that come in, or kind of students. It basically would be like an intern in human doctors, like when they're going through their 4-year, or their residence. So our main vet plus a couple of the residents that had seen Jack throughout the years all agreed that they thought it was just IBS. And Jack, it was really manageable until Teffy passed. After Teffy passed, like I had said, a part of Jack, we seemed to lose a part of Jack. And so it was hard on Jack to lose Teffy because he was bonded with her. And we noticed he was starting to have more loose stool, and it was more liquidy, and it was more frequent. And I had talked to the vet about it, and the vet's like, at this point, he's 15 years old. He's had IBS since he was 6 or 7. The vet's like, it's just, the disease is progressing. And so we lived with it. It started out that he was going in the litter box, and he was defecating sometimes outside the litter box. Sometimes it was on accident. He would go in the litter box and he wouldn't necessarily turn around. So his body was in the litter box, but his butt was hanging out enough for him to poop on the floor. So we started putting puppy pads on the floor in front of the litter box. And that seemed to work great for, so Teffy passed away in September 2022, and we bought our house in August 2023. So that year that we were in that rental, that was what worked the best for Jack in that rental. And that worked well for him. We moved here, that continued to work well for him. Now, mind you, we also got sushi too, and sushi didn't seem to affect anything when it came to litter box stuff with him. And we noticed here that as he got older, and as his mobility got worse, and as it seemed like the progression of his IBS got worse, he just wasn't making it to the box. And it was more so kind of like, I described it as, it was almost like an old man. Sometimes, like you get behind them at the grocery store and it seems like they're little jet propelled. Some poofs of gas come out and you sometimes wonder if a little bit extra came out. Well, with Jack, he would be walking and you could hear the as he's tooting as he's walking, and sometimes stool would come out with it as he was walking to the litter box. Or it was like he would be in our room and he'd get up like, oh, I gotta go potty, and you could tell he was trying to make it to the box and he just didn't. So I was continuously having to clean the hallway in our upstairs hallway carpet. We have one of those carpet cleaners, the wet ones. So I was having to do that multiple times a week. So that goes back to why, like when I was talking about in the doll room, I had the door shut. Now that Jack is gone, the door is open because I just didn't want him to come in here and have an accident in here. And like I might only come in here once or twice a week, and it had been sitting here for a few days. Now I've got a worse mess to clean up. It's been sitting, not a fresher mess to clean up. it was getting hard. Yes, I'll admit, I got frustrated with him quite a bit. He still slept with my husband. He still wanted to be loved. He loved eating. He loved eating literally until the end. The day he passed away, I knew it was that day because he did not want to eat. He did not eat at all that day. The day before, even, he didn't eat as much as he usually did, but he ate the day before. So he passed away on a Wednesday. The Saturday before, I knew we didn't have much time with him. Friday, it was typical Jack on Friday. Friday morning at 4:00 in the morning, he woke up screaming at me, wanting me to feed him right away. And I always made him wait till 7:00 when I got up to get the kids ready. So Friday was just like a normal Friday. Saturday was a normal Saturday. That day he let me sleep till 6:30 when he woke up screaming at me to feed him. And I'm like, Jack, quiet. My husband came home from work and fed them. And I got up like I usually did on a Saturday. Jack was acting normal. My son and I went to run a few errands, and when we came back, something was wrong. Like, something was different about Jack. My husband's like, what was it? And I'm like, I don't know. I could not put my finger on what it was on Saturday night that made me say that. Sunday, he let me sleep in a little bit, but he still woke up and wanted his food, and he was meowing a little bit. But I noticed on Sunday, he wasn't in pain, but on Sunday, he tried to jump up to get some water. Now, the cat's got a water fountain, and it's sitting on the counter in our bathroom. We just put it there because it's motion activated, and Jack liked to pace on the floor in the bathroom. Like, he's done that since we moved into this house. And if it was on anywhere on the floor in the bathroom, when he would start pacing, he would constantly turn it on, and it would run the battery dead quickly because it was a rechargeable one. So once we put it on the counter in between the two sinks, A, it was easier to clean and take care of. B, Jack could pace all he wanted to on that floor. He was not setting off the motion detector and draining the battery quickly. So that's what worked for us for like the last 6 months. But I noticed he jumped up to get a drink of water, and he couldn't jump up on the counter. And that's kind of when I really knew that there wasn't a whole lot left, because this was the cat that could jump from the floor to the top of our fridge, no problems. And our counters in our bathroom are not very high. They're actually low for bathroom counters. Like, my husband's always complaining about that they're low. I'm a short person, they're perfect height for me. But when that happened, like, I instantly started crying because I knew the fact that he could not jump the slower distance, that our time with Jack was coming close. So that was Sunday. So Sunday after that, when it happened, we had a bowl for water that we used for Nebula when we had Nebula separated from the cats. So I grabbed this bowl and filled it up with water and set it next to their food dish so that Jack didn't have to jump on the counter to get his water. Now, mind you, for like the last 3 months, whenever Jack ate his wet food, he literally shoved his face in it. So after he would eat, we were constantly having to wipe his face off because he would get food up his nose. So I was cleaning his face off, and I was noticing also he was going between the wet food and the water. He would eat some wet food, and then he'd go take a drink of water. And I don't know if he was trying to clean his face off himself, because then the water dish was getting full of the wet food as well on the bottom. And then he would start meowing, so I would dump it out and refill it and give him clean water. So that happened a few times on Sunday. On Monday, he was still able to walk, and he was still able to get up and down off of our bed. He did prefer to sleep. At this point, he was preferring to sleep on the rug he was preferring to sleep on the rug in our bathroom. And so I moved one of his favorite beds into the bathrooms sitting on the rug, so it was a little more comfortable for him. And when I went to bed, he also had a bed on our bed that he slept in when my husband was in there. Otherwise, he slept on my husband in bed. So when I woke up on Monday, he was in bed with me, in his bed. So he was able to get from the floor onto our bed. And our bed is quite high, but I then later realized my husband had a laundry basket of clean clothes that was sitting at the foot of our bed that kind of made a ramp up. And he was getting in and out of the bed that way. So Monday, I noticed his mobility throughout the day on Monday was getting less. He still wasn't acting in pain, but it was just like he was getting stiffer. And now, mind you, Jack had always been a super skinny cat, but at this point you could start seeing that his muscles were going. And that was Monday. My kids were home from school Monday because it was President's Day. We really didn't do anything on Monday. My daughter had theater Monday night, so we took her to that. We got something to eat on the way home, and I don't think that I don't even think my son left the house on Monday. So Tuesday rolled around. My kids didn't have school on Tuesday because of a teacher in service day. And so like I said, from Sunday night, Jack, Monday morning I woke up, Jack was in bed with me. And on Monday night, I noticed it was harder for him to move around. So I put him in bed with me, but how I put him in bed with me, like, I didn't sleep really well Monday night. Because Jack could still get up and walk around. He would try to get up and walk around, and I was afraid he was going to fall off the bed, but I knew if I didn't put him in the bed with me, he would try to get up on the bed, and I was afraid that he was going to fall trying to get up on the bed. So I just put him in the bed with me when I went to bed. And like I woke up and on Tuesday, and he wasn't in his bed, but he was at the foot of the bed. So he did get out of his bed and then walk down to the foot of the bed. And then as soon as he saw I was awake, he started yelling at me to feed him on Tuesday. So I got up and fed him. And that's when I noticed on Tuesday, like, he would usually eat his whole can of wet food and then try to go eat Nebula's wet food. They would try to eat each other's food. Like, they would try to gobble down theirs first and then get to the other ones. He ate some of his food on Tuesday, but he didn't eat it all. And that was kind of another sign to me that we were getting close. He was wanting to eat, but he didn't even eat half of what, I think he didn't even eat a fourth of what he typically eats. Throughout Tuesday, it was getting harder for him to walk. Now, mind you, Jack going to all these vet visits to check his bottom when he was having the problems with the urinary stuff, Jack was petrified of the vet. Teffy didn't mind going to the vet. So when we had to put Teffy down, Teffy fought till the end. They gave her the medicine to relax her, and then they gave her the medication to stop her heart, and she was fighting it. Like, they were about to give her a second dose of that medication before, like, they were literally going to get the medication when Teffy finally passed away. They were going to get a second dose of it. She was fighting it. But Teffy also, her back legs weren't working, and she didn't understand that. So she kept trying to get up to walk and would fall over because her back legs did not work at all. We don't know why. I woke up that morning and her back legs did not work. So we don't know if she fell at some point in the night and hurt her back or what. So we knew we had to put Teffy down, help her cross the Rainbow Bridge because she was suffering. Now, this whole thing with Jack, at no point did I feel he was suffering. If I had, I would have made the call, no, we need to take him in. But my husband always said he wanted Jack to pass away peacefully in his sleep. He goes, I want Jack to go to sleep and not wake up. I don't want to take him to the vet. I don't want, even if he's in like a comatose type state. My husband knew he was petrified of the vet. And he goes, I don't want him to cross the Rainbow Bridge in a place he's scared of. So if I had to make that call, I would have. But I also was letting my husband kind of lead since Jack was his. So this was Tuesday. Tuesday, it was getting harder for him to move around, but he was still getting up. He was still walking around. During the day, I put him on the bed in the bathroom. In the bathroom is where our food is, and the cat food is. His wet food was in there. I still had the water bowl on the floor for him. I moved everything closer to him. And then he was starting to have problems where he couldn't hold his urine. So we just put a puppy pad under the bed, on the bed he was laying on, so under him. And I was checking on him frequently on Tuesday. I was actually in my room most of Tuesday. I didn't want to hover over him, but I wanted to spend time with him. So I was spending time with him. I was cuddling him, my husband as well. The kids were going in there and talking to him, so they were all having their time with him. And Tuesday night, we had to go to my husband's parents' house for a club that we're in. It was the meeting. We came home, and Jack had gotten out of his bed and tried to get into the box next to him, and he got stuck. He got 3 of his 4 legs in, and his one back leg was still hanging out, so he was kind of tipped over in there, and like my heart just broke. And I got him out, and I'm like, Jack, you can't do that. You, buddy, I know you want to, but you just can't. Like, it broke my heart. So I got him back in his bed. Then when I went to bed, I once again, Tuesday night, put him in bed with me. This time I put a puppy pad under him. I woke up a few times that night, did change his puppy pad because he had urinated, cleaned him up. So if his fur felt wet, I wiped him off with a baby wipe. And Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, he was still like throughout Tuesday night, he would wake up occasionally and just let out a soft meow, and I'd be like, Jack, it's okay, I'm right here. And Jack, it's like, through this whole thing, guys, I was telling him it was okay for him to go be with Teffy. It was okay for him to cross the Rainbow Bridge. I was giving him permission. And it seemed like he was holding on for something, and I don't know what it was. But my husband came home on Wednesday, and he cuddled with Jack for quite a while. Because he kind of felt like at this point, Jack really wasn't getting up. Jack was sleeping most of the time. And so he cuddled with him, and then he put him in his bed next to him on the bed because he didn't want to roll over on Jack. So my son actually stayed home from school on Wednesday because he wasn't feeling well, and he wasn't feeling well and wanted to go to the doctor. He had signs of strep, although he didn't have strep when I took him in. We left here to take him to the doctor. When I left, I checked on Jack. He was still breathing. He was asleep next to my husband. And I checked his pad, and it was dry. So I gave him a kiss and told him I loved him.
and something told me to take his collar off of him. I don't know why. I don't know what it was. Something said take his collar off him, so I did. I didn't know. I'm like, at this point, it made no sense why we left his collar on him this long anyways, because the whole point of us having collars on our animals is in case they get out of the house. Yes, they're microchipped, but sometimes it's easier to A, identify somebody's pet because they have a collar on, B, all the information is on their collars. So I'm thinking, why did I leave it on this long where he could have been more comfortable without it? So I took his collar off. My son and I left for the doctor appointment, and when we came home, my husband was asleep, and Jack had passed away some point while we were gone. I instantly called the pet funeral home that we took Teffy to, and they had an appointment for us to bring him in right away, so we took him there. And we said our goodbyes to him, and they were going to send him off. So that is what happened at the end. It did make it made it easier. He would have been 18 in April. And sorry guys, and I'm going to have to make this into 2 parts because it's over an hour long. So he went to the same place that we took Teffy. We'll be getting him back hopefully next week. I did get a tote for him. So when Teffy passed away, I got a tote that I put her favorite bed in and her favorite toys in, and once we got Teffy back, I put Teffy's box in with it. So it's got her collar in it, her favorite toys. She was cremated, so it has her box with her in it. The funeral home that we use, they give you a little candle with their paw print on it, or a little candle holder with their paw print on it. That's in there with Teffy, and so I got the same exact little tote, plastic tote. It's a clear tote. Jack had the same bed as Teffy, except for hers was white and his was blue. So I got that for him, a tote for him as well. So we put his favorite blue bed in there with him. I feel guilty about this because on Monday it was that I found his favorite toys. His favorite toys were these puffballs. And when we moved from our rental to this house, they got put in the bottom of the toy box. And for the cats have toy boxes everywhere. They got put into a toy box and they fell to the bottom, and I forgot about them. So when we moved here, poor Jack, for the last year and a half, did not have his favorite toys because they were at the bottom of this toy box, and I didn't know that. I honestly thought we lost them when we moved. I was looking for something else, and I found them on Monday. And even though Jack couldn't move very well, he would put the toy in his mouth and shake his head like he was playing with it. And he was happy with his toys. So we had him cremated with a few of them, and the other ones are in his box. So when we get Jack back, we're going to put his cedar box that has his cremated remains in there with him. I was going to get for Teffy. I know Crystal had got these urns made to look like her cats when they had them cross over the Rainbow Bridge with their cremated remains in it. I was going to do that for Teffy, and I just never did. I think it would be harder at this point because of how I have everything set up. Seeing this, urn that looks like Teffy or Jack laying on their favorite bed in these boxes, I think that would hurt more than seeing just the wooden box. So we just leave in the wooden boxes, and they come in very nice wooden boxes from this place. But that is what happened with Jack. He passed away of old age. Essentially, he, like I said, up until Wednesday, on Tuesday, he was still eating and drinking. In fact, on Tuesday, we ended up going and getting Chick-fil-A for supper because it's right by where my daughter has theater practice. And I came upstairs Tuesday night. Jack loved Chick-fil-A. So did Teffy. That was Teffy's kind of last meal as well. When Teffy stopped or slowed down in eating, I knew I could get her to eat Chick-fil-A. So I gave Jack some of my chicken, which he did eat some of it. He didn't eat a lot of it, but he did eat some of that on Tuesday night. But Wednesday morning, he couldn't really, he tried to get up, but he couldn't. He was so weak at that point. He could move his head. And so Tuesday morning when I got up, he had no inkling of wanting to even get up to go eat. I did get his food and bring it to him while he was laying with my husband. But he just kind of sniffed it, and that was it. Like, he didn't even attempt to lick it. So that's kind of when I knew on Wednesday we were very close. It is comforting that he crossed the Rainbow Bridge peacefully. He wasn't in any pain. Like I said, when his mobility was going down, like between Tuesday and Wednesday, if he would get up and he would rotate him, like he still had enough energy, like he was laying on his side and he would get up and turn himself so that he would lay on his other side. Or there were some times that he would lay on his stomach and then he'd just kind of roll over on one of his sides. On Wednesday, while I was still here, he would wake up and kind of let out a little meow, and I'd talk to him and tell him it was okay and give him permission. I would roll him over as well so that he wasn't always laying on one side. So it would be a little more comfortable for him. But I knew it was coming when we left. I was hoping he would wait until we got home. But in a way, I am kind of glad that it happened while we were gone, because I think it would have been harder on me. And like I said, he crossed the Rainbow Bridge sleeping next to my husband in his favorite sleeping spot, right next to my husband with his person. I don't know if taking off the collar helped. My son and I were gone for about 2 hours for his doctor appointment, because we had to go. After his doctor appointment, we had to stop at one store to get some meds for my son, and it was right next to Party City. And Party City was closing like 2 days later, and my son asked if we could go into Party City. So him and I went into Party City, and we got some more stuff for my son's graduation. Now, mind you, my son doesn't graduate for another few years, but they had a bunch of purple graduation stuff when we went in. So we shopped around for a little bit, and then we came home. And so it was difficult. It's been difficult. We've all been missing him. It's been way too quiet without him. He did not train these three very well to be loud, to let me know. Jack was the type of cat that when he walked into a room, he let everybody know that they were in his presence. If you walked into a room that he was in, he would let you know that he was there. So it was difficult. It's been difficult. We've had him a long time. We had him 17, almost 18 years. He was there for me when my husband was in Iraq. He saved my life more than once. And you always knew that Jack was there. I have separation anxiety when it comes to our animals. I already hate staying at hotel rooms, but like I really don't like leaving for long extended periods of time. I was better off when I went up to North Dakota when my dad had brain surgery, leaving Jack and Teffy at home because my husband and kids were still here. And then when I went on the girls' trip with Heather and Crystal, but every time we've left, we've always had, like when we went up for my grandmother's funeral, when we went up for my father's funeral, when we've gone to the convention rabbit shows, we've always had people come and stay with the animals. But I just had anxieties with that. I think part of it was because Jack and Teffy's ages, and I was afraid, like especially as they got older, if we would leave, that they would pass away when we were gone. I'm glad that didn't happen with either of them. But I don't know. I'm weird when it comes to our pets. Like I know my husband and kids and I can take care of them, and I know like when my mother-in-law or my sister-in-law are taking care of them for us, I know they're being taken care of and they're being well taken care of. But I just don't like being away from my animals. Just like when I was in the other places, I didn't like being away from my kids either. But it was to me, it was easier leaving the kids and the animals at home with my husband than it is to leave the animals at home, or even if necessarily if I took the animals with and left the kids at home. I probably wouldn't like that either. But they're my babies too. Right, Sab. She's my sensitive one. But yeah, this video is way over an hour long. Obviously by now you've seen I've split it in two to make 2 separate videos of it, but that is the story time of my journey with cats up until this point. Oh, and obviously we've got Sushi. We got not long after. So Teffy passed away in September, and we got Sushi in November, after we came back from convention. And then after Teffy had passed away, my son had mentioned he had always wanted a black cat. And so my husband said as soon as we got a house, we could get a black cat for him. So we got this house at the beginning of August, or no, middle of August. And I think it was the beginning or middle of September, we got Sabbath. We got this one. We got this chonkus of a cat. And then Nebula came along last year. My husband's coworker found him on the road, almost ran over him on his way to work. And of the people that were working that night, we only had 3 cats. One of his coworkers had 7 cats indoors, and he didn't know how many he fed outdoors. He had a bunch of strays he fed. And the other guy said that he had 6 indoor cats. So being we only had 3 and they all had over 5, it was either us take Nebula in or he was going to end up at the kill shelter. So we took Nebula in, and so that's how those 3 came into our lives. Yeah, they're all younger. Sabbath's about to be 2 in April. No, wait. Sabbath's July. Jack was April. Sabbath will be 2 in July. Sushi will be 3 in September. And then Nebula will be 1 in August. And I was kidding with my husband. I'm like, okay, so for the last 3 years, and like between September and November, we seem to be accruing a cat. Last year, kiddingly, at the vet, because Sabbath goes
in September. No, Sabbath goes October. Sushi goes November, and Nebula goes December. So that's how our cats go in for their rabies shots. And I kiddingly told my husband last year, I'm like, seriously? Because it seems like the vet gets so expensive at the end of the year around Christmas. And I'm like, okay, can we not get another animal around this time next year? And my husband started laughing. He goes, why would we do that? And he's already, like I said, with everything, I'm following his lead. Jack was his. He's already getting me to kind of be on the lookout for another orange cat. We need more. We need orange energy in this house. It's very much lacking in this house right now, the orange cat energy. Right now, everything's kind of a little monochromatic because we've got Sabbath, who's an all black cat with a little bit of white on her chest, underneath her collar, and then in her armpits, and then on her belly, she has a white heart. Then we've got Nebula, who is a tuxedo, so he's got white socks on all 4 feet, and his belly's white, and his chest is white, and his chin is white. Then we have Sushi, who is one person in the vet's office said she was a brown tabby, and another person said she's a gray tabby. She's kind of in between, because while Teffy, I can honestly say, was for sure a brown tabby because she had a brown belly, and she was darker, and throughout in her body, in the gray and black, you could see brown. Sushi's body, I don't see brown in. It's more of a light gray, although she does have a little bit of brown in her belly where it used to be white. So to me, Sushi is more of a gray tabby than a brown tabby. But we're kind of monochromatic. We've got an all black, a black and white, and then a gray. So a gray tabby. So we need some orange energy, although he wants a female orange cat, so that's going to be a little bit harder to find. So I've been slowly kind of looking. I know this is the end of February, so we're getting into kitten season. It might be a little bit easier to find an orange female kitten when we start getting more into kitten season. So I'm going to be on the lookout for an orange female kitten, because that is what my husband is asking, and I can't make that call if it's too soon or not for him. If his heart is already ready, that's him. That was his cat. Like I said, it's been really quiet without Jack, and we do need some orange energy. Jack's presence is missed. There is a missing piece in this house. Is a new kitten gonna fill it? No, but it might help the missing presence of Jack. Just like I know Jack will send the right kitten at the right time, even if somebody might think it's a little too quickly. I believe that we do have soul contracts with animals. Teffy was my soul cat, and Sushi is also my soul cat. I've got 2 soul cats. Jack was definitely my husband's soul cat. So I think Jack, I know Teffy sent me Sushi when I needed Sushi the most. And I have a feeling that Jack will send my husband a cat when he needs it the most, and that might be right now. I don't know. We will find the orange female kitten when Jack has found the current one, the proper one. The both parts have gotten way too long, so I know this is kind of depressing. I hope everyone has a better day than I have had a better week, and I will see you all later. Bye.